to start with a couple of brief readings from this book of Yoganandaji's, How to Love and Be Loved, on friendship. He says here, cultivate true friendliness, for only thus do you attract true friends to yourself. True friendship consists in being mutually useful and offering your friends good cheer in distress, sympathy in sorrow, advice in trouble, and material help in times of real need. Friendship consists in rejoicing in the good fortune of your friends and sympathizing with them in adversity. Friendship gladly forgoes selfish pleasures or self-interest for the sake of a friend's happiness, without consciousness of loss or sacrifice, or without counting the cost. Another master says here, how to convert enemies into friends. That's the topic of this one. I just read 2 lines. Practice loving those who do not love you. Feel for those who do not feel for you. Be generous to those who are generous only to themselves. And finally, one last one, on finding friends of past incarnations. Guruji says, there are people with whom you come in contact daily, yet with whom you do not feel in sympathy. Learn to love them and adapt yourself to them. There are others who give you the instantaneous feeling that you have known them always. This indicates that they are your friends of previous incarnations. Do not neglect them. Strengthen the friendship existing between you. Be on the lookout for them always, as your restless mind may fail to recognize them. Often they are very near you, drawn by the friendship born in the distant past. They constitute your shining collection of soul jewels. Add to it constantly. In these bright soul galaxies, you will behold the one great friend, smiling at you radiantly and clearly. It is God who comes to you in the guise of a noble true friend to serve, inspire, and to guide you. Om Shanti. Shanti. It's a very beautiful topic on divine friendship, supportive friendship. And the most important part is what Master says there. God is behind all the friends, all the family members, all the people we hold near and dear. It's really Divine Mother peeking at you through their eyes and caressing you and loving you and helping you and encouraging you and supporting you through your parents and all the various people in our lives. Divine Mother is the truest of all friends. And I think if we can remember her, keep our minds on her, to maybe have a prayer that you have every day towards the Divine Mother, or a chant that you chant to her, flowers that you offer, your love. You find the friend of all friends. And the rest of the topic is wonderful, but really the true friend is the Divine Mother. And she never fails. She may take you to the 11th hour. You may think she didn't hear your prayer, or she doesn't care, or she's not listening, or she's not awake, or whatever, but in all the years I've been on this path, I've never found that Divine Mother and the Gurus ever failed me. That in true times of need, there was always the divine hand that came through some person or some guidance, or inwardly I felt an insight, or I knew which direction to take. This is the friend that we really want to cultivate, is the Divine Friend. And you find that Divine Mother gives you so many sweet surprises that she doesn't have to. If she were saving your life, that would be one thing. But for her to give you little things in life that you've thought about and maybe you had some little desire for them, and they show up at your door, or somehow they come, it just shows how much she loves us. And I think for the most important thing to keep in mind for devotee is that it's the divine romance with God that we are all striving for. And as you continue to meditate with love and do Kriya with love and chant your heart out, sometimes you're chanting for hours, and the Divine Mother's presence is in your heart, and you may find tears just streaming down your face for love. So many people cry for money, for fame, for health, for whatever. How many people cry for God? And as a devotee, our hearts soften as we practice more and as we call to God, and as you have depth in your meditation. I remember one time at night I had to, a dream or something. Anyway, a face appeared in the night at the spiritual eye, and I think I was partially awake, but it was such a wonderful feeling. And the first thought it was a very clear image, and I don't know who it was. I have thoughts of maybe who it was, but for me it was Divine Mother coming to bless me. And the first thought that came in my mind was, I've seen you before. And isn't it so that the ones who are with us in this life and ones from other lives, many saints and masters are helping us. And in the body, not with the body, the whole universe is helping us as we open ourselves to love and helping others and friendship, and it's all coming from God. Let's be clear about that. And as I remember when I came to India, and I didn't know anybody here, and I knew Swamiji, and I knew a few Americans who were here then, and it wasn't such an easy time in the beginning. Anything you start up at the beginning, there's a period of tapasya, and that certainly was happening. And there was a lot of missing people and various things. Anyway, I went to Swamiji and I said to him, and this was after, I was here a little bit of time then, and I always tried to be very, and I was frank and honest with him about what I was going through. So I said, Swamiji, I feel lonely here. And I said, I don't really know anybody, and I just feel a sense of loneliness. And he said such beautiful words I'll never forget. It was so sweet and so uplifting. He said, when you practice the presence of God, you will never feel alone. And I've guided my life by that thought, that anytime you feel, there's a desire for this romance, or I need this person, or I miss my biological family, or whatever it is, I need it. And you just come back to, and I know in that moment he blessed me because I didn't feel lonely anymore. I love being alone. And I think I lived in caves by myself many incarnations. It was just a passing kind of a delusion. But I say to all of you, as you have those feelings of I've got to have something else or somebody else to complete me, to fulfill me. Just remember, if you practice the presence of God, you never feel lonely and you never feel alone. That means to chant to God, to pray. Just have Divine Mother as your constant companion. She's in the car with you, she's at the shopping mall with you, she's walking with you through the park, whatever. Just feel that you always have that sweet presence with you, guiding you. And no one in this entire world could be a better friend. Nobody. It's just the perfect relationship is only in God. And people go through various betrayals, and this friend leaves them, and that woman or man walks off, and it just is so much a delusion. It's such a compromise. Our souls and hearts are longing for union back with God, not with the human being, with God. The spiritual path is how to uplift us to come back in that oneness with God. Otherwise, nothing and no one can ever complete us. And I have to say that as I've been on the path, in this physical realm, this physical world, I met someone who was, I think on this physical plane, the best friend I ever had. And that was Swami Kriyanandaji. And I think many people at Ananda who spent time with Swamiji all say the same. He was my best friend. And I think about why. Because Swamiji was, first of all, he was so clear himself. He was not hiding behind anything. He was very real. And when I went to Ananda, I met him, and he said, "This is your home. You should think about living here." And I thought, well, how does he know me? But he knew my soul, and he immediately invited me. There were maybe one or two other African Americans there at Ananda, but Swamiji reached out to me immediately, and I felt his sincerity, and I felt he wants the best for me. He's not thinking about drawing me to him, or selfishness for himself, or maybe I could work and help Ananda. His whole attitude with everyone who knows him or knew him was he was there for them, to support and encourage them. In times of heavy trials, I would ask Swamiji to pray for me. I knew him. Because of his prayers, I was able to come up out of those delusions, because he was a friend there to encourage and support. I remember one time we had a small singing group, and we were in Italy, and we sang at different parks and the piazzas and various places. And I mean, we didn't, sometimes later on we sang pretty well, but in the beginning it was not all that good. And Swamiji, he would be right there, and we would be singing our hearts out the best way we could, and so we'd ask afterwards. I mean, we were all in our maybe late 20s, early 30s, and so, how was it, Swamiji? I mean, just like children. And he just would have the sweetest smile on his face, and he would say something like, "Well, you looked like angels." And he would never say it was out of tune or whatever. He says, "You looked like angels." And how encouraging. It was always that way. I remember giving Sunday satsangs with Swamiji in the congregation. Now that wasn't easy to do. He'd sit in the front row. This was in Italy, and oh God, I was shaking all over. The last person I wanted to speak in front of was Swamiji. I just thought, oh gosh, you're going to say, take her off forever. And So I'd basically be shaking through the whole thing, but I did my best, and I could feel his prayers. How interesting! From the audience, I just could feel a wave of energy to make me more calm and centered, and to get the words right. And you have to keep in mind, it wasn't in English; it was in Italian at that, and I was good in Italian at that point. But still, you've got to work your mind to get the right words out. And I just could feel Swamiji's constant loving energy, and afterwards he would say, "That was wonderful." And I knew it wasn't wonderful. It was okay, but that was wonderful, because he was the friend, and he knew later it would get better and better, but he would never make you feel inadequate or you couldn't do it. He was always encouraging. And I remember a time when a person at Ananda village was going through a very, very hard time. And Swamiji, at a huge congregation, it was like, I don't know, several hundred people, Swamiji talked he was giving the talk. And during the talk, for at least 5 minutes, he talked about this one person who was having a hard time. He didn't mention the name. He did mention the name, but he kept saying how much they had done for the work, how wonderful they were doing. And he didn't say anything about them having a hard time, but he just praised the person. He went on and on about how important a role they had, and he never talked about people like that. And you knew he was saying that just to support that person and to let them know that we are all behind them and praying for them. And Swamiji lived the principle, people are more important than things. And he was ever there to help you however he could. And so thus everywhere he went, he made friends. People loved him, and all around the world. Here in India, he would walk through the malls, and we had, our wishing tree store, and Swamiji would go there, and many people just would come and touch his feet, just, as he was walking there, and say, "Who are you, sir? And how are you? How did you get here? And what are you doing?" He just emanated a vibration of universality, of love, of support. He would go into the stores and, "Hello, how are you?" And whoever was there with him would all go in, and every time he went, he would go and speak to his friends at the mall and the eyeglass store and the barista and various places he would just go, and then at restaurants, all the restaurants he liked, he would go and talk with people and stores and everywhere. And he had friends everywhere. And because he put out a vibration all the time of Divine Mother's loving support and friendship, so people would come to him not knowing who he was, for his blessings, for his energy, and Swamiji was, I never met anyone quite like him, who wherever he went, he made friends. And Master, of course, was that way. I thought of a couple of very sweet stories of Master's life, where Yoganandaji, one time he went to a store, and he was buying some things, and so because he was going for the center, the ashram, he was entrusted with the money for the ashram, so he wanted to not spend too much and not be overpriced, so he bargained with the person, and then the person came down on the price, but he saw God in the person. This is the thing we have to remember. If we can see behind the veil of the personality, and this Divine Mother is there somewhere. And so he got the guy down to the price that he wanted, And then when he went to pay, he gave the man more than what he had gotten the price down for. And how sweet. And then Master went back to, I think it was at Mount Washington, and he said to some of the devotees, he said, that man, he didn't have a carpet on his floor. He had a bare floor. I think I'll buy him a carpet. It just was so sweet that way. Always thinking about the other person. And because he was one with everybody, he said at times he didn't know which body he was supposed to keep going. And he could feel people's sense of loss or pain or suffering. He would walk on Main Street in front of the bars in Los Angeles, just putting out a vibration of healing, upliftment, light, and trying to draw people back to their centers. And another beautiful story is Master was in a car with one of the devotees driving, and devotee was driving, and he said, stop the car at a certain point, stop the car. Master got out and he went to a store that was it had a variety of gift kind of items, and Master went around, and the man who was with them said, he said there was just a lot of sort of secondhand kind of junky things in there. Master picked out so many things, and the driver, the disciple thought, well, what is he getting all that junk for? And Master just kept loading the basket or whatever he had, and then he goes up, and the person whose his store it was, she added everything up, and then Master gave the money, and then she burst out in tears, and she said, I just very badly needed just this sum of money today. She had to pay for something or other. She said, God himself must have sent you. And that's how he was. He could feel the energies of people. We have to be able to do that more. What's needed in this situation? What words can I say that will be healing and helpful? What vibration can I put out? What loving energy can I put out? Just a smile is so helpful at different times with people. And people go around in a mask these days. When I first came to India, I would walk down the streets, because in America, people are very friendly, very outward and friendly. And so wherever you go, people are saying, hello, how are you? Whatever store you go into, a restaurant, and car wash, and anywhere, people, how are you? And, even if it's, they don't really want to know all the details of how you are, but it's a gesture of friendliness. And so I didn't know anything. I came here, I walked down the street, hello, how are you? Good morning. And nobody talked to me. Everybody, they walk by, and I just go, hello. I'm just a sort of happy person. And then, but I didn't get much response. People just would sort of look down, and I could tell they had been either, I don't know, schooled that way, or afraid, or pained, and it sort of, I could feel that in my heart, that they don't feel comfortable saying hello. And that's one reason why, I wanted to learn Hindi. I'm learning Hindi, and I can speak some Hindi. And I talk to everybody, and if Hindi is called for, or even if it's not, I want to reach people. So I talk to people, the restaurants or the hotels or the taxi driver or wherever I go, because I want to communicate with people. I'm not here to be in a box. I'm here to give my Guruji's teachings and also his vibrations. And I remember a funny story that in the beginning I was really struggling with the language, and much more so than now. So there was a very sweet taxi driver that I was with. He had taken me many times, various places in Gurgaon and Delhi. And so I was with him, and then we were at a stop somewhere, and then he had a phone call. He just was crying and crying, and I must not have been here for 2 years at that point, and I just, oh my God, something happened, and then I didn't speak, barely at all Hindi, and he didn't speak English, and I could just feel this guy needs something. He had been taking me around for at least a number of months, and my heart just went out to him, and I said, what's wrong? And I couldn't understand, he couldn't understand. So finally he gives me the phone, and his brother speaking English. Something about the father was in the hospital, and I felt so bad for him. So he cried all the way home. I was amazed. I just felt so terrible. But I didn't know what to do. So finally we get home, and he takes me. He walks me to the door with my packages, and I just wanted to say something to make him feel better. And the little Hindi I had, I tried, and what I was trying to say was, I will pray for your father, your Pitaji, and ask my guru to pray for, to help your Pitaji. And I said, I pray for your Papitaji. And the guy just started laughing, because of course Papita means papaya. And he went from tears to laughter. And honestly, I made a friend for life, just because I attempted to try to help him the best way I could. And Divine Mother intervened, because it really he just cracked up at that. He thought that was the funniest thing. And so we, opening up and offering yourself more to people is as much as you feel you can. I walk in the park here every day, and in Gurgaon, and here again, I've walked there for years. When I first would go, here again, I'd talk to everybody, and nobody there was wondering, oh, who is she, and where does she live? And I just kept going, and little by little, people started to say hello. It took some time, but I just kept saying hello, good morning, and now just about everybody will say hello. And that's taken a long time, but I think they feel the sincerity. They see me there every day. And for all of us, we live in a hard time and hard society, but we can't close our hearts. There has to be an openness there, as much as you feel as you can feel it. I remember a woman who stayed in ashram a little while ago, and she said, she was a young woman, and she was going through a lot of problems, and she said, I don't feel any love here. And I looked at her, I said, my God, you've got to be kidding. You're living in an ashram. And the point is, if you don't give love, you'll never feel anything. If you don't give out joy, you'll never feel joy. If you don't give peace, you'll never feel it. So to be a friend, you have to be a friend. To have friends, you have to be a friend. Be supportive and feel yourself vast, like this affirmation we did, in the stars, in the planets, in the galaxies. At this little moment of time that you're in this little body, it's just a few decades, then you're just going to pop right out of there, and you'll be a part of, if you can in the right way, again, a part of the stars and the galaxies and the planets and cosmic consciousness. And in whatever ways you can do that now, try to. I was at Lodi Garden here the other day, and walking there, and I saw something that I haven't seen it here, but I was very happy to see it. I saw two Indian men. They were walking in front of me, and suddenly they got off the path, and they went over, and they put their arms around a tree. And I went, great. I just loved it. And they stayed there for just, I don't know, a minute or two. And that just sparked that in my mind. I said, I'm going to do the same thing. Because here we are, we walk through the park, or, we walk out in nature. Nobody pays any attention to nature. It's just walking. We're walking with a headset, or walking straight ahead. But there's devas, there's angels, there's various spirits that are in the trees, that are in the flowers. The flowers are trying to talk to you. The trees, right at this time of year, there's so much wonderful fragrance in various ones of the trees. And they're just trying to say, look, you're bigger than that little body. Befriend all of life. We're trying to get your attention. And there are little birds that come right by up to my door. And someone said yesterday, Dhyana, there's a little brown bird there. I think he's waiting for you. And I went and I said, hello, hello. He comes every day. There's 2 or 3, they come and bathe in the fountain. But this is because you have to be open in general. So I too found a tree and I went and I hugged it. I just felt so happy. And I just realized that the vibration coming out of a tree is so healing. The vibration from the earth, if you ever can get your feet on the grass and out of the shoes, it's such a healing, wonderful energy. If you can pay attention to the flowers and the birds and the sky and the stars, and you start to become more than a little infant, a little finite self. You start to become more infinite. And as you do, you realize that that's who and what you are. And so to broaden our awareness is very important. And then becoming others' friends. Master said in the reading I read for you that people who you feel close to, they've been with you before, you've been with them before. If there's an instant feeling, connectedness, that means you've been friends in the past before. Master said, you look in the eyes. He said the body will be different than maybe you might think, you may imagine. Maybe the person's heavy set, maybe whatever, they've gone through whatever. But he said, just look in the eyes. And the eyes are the windows of the soul. And the eyes will guide you to your friends of the past. And also harmonious relationships, when you just feel very comfortable with certain people. That means you've been Guru Bhais before. You've helped close Guru Bhais. And I have to say that I travel around quite a bit, and also in America, and I have been in Europe. But I feel the closest, and I don't know quite why, but I think there's soul bonds that I have that are very dear and near and dear. I have many dear friends around, but at the centers, I feel closest to the people here in Gurgaon. And I think you draw your own. That, we've all been together, we've all created centers, we've all meditated together, served together. And speaking of that, I feel closest to the people I meditate with and serve with. People you never see, that never come around, that never help with anything. I just don't have that, I don't have a close bond with them. The people that you work serving together, you're meditating together, you have fun together, maybe you cry together at different times. This is what a Guru Bhai really is. And that means a soul friend, not an ego friend. We're seeking soul friends. And those are coming to us to help us to rise up in spirit again in this time. And then there are bonds from past lives, as I said. And then Master said too, and kind of a funny thing, that people who we don't care for so much, particularly it could happen in families, that you're drawn into the same family to work out the, heavy karma that you might have. You come in close quarters. And Master said families are often just a test for you. And I remember growing up with my brothers. It was 3 of us at the beginning, then 2 other sisters came later. And basically, I mean, we were boxing each other all the time and wrestling, and who can beat the other one up, and I think there was a lot of warring going on, probably from past lives, and it happens. Somebody you don't really like comfortably. I mean, you can learn to be okay with them, but there are natural feelings from the past of someone you didn't get along with, and like this man, I think his name was Jerry at Mount Washington. He told Swamiji's first name was Donald, and he says, "I don't know why I hate you so much, Don, but I just do." You wonder if somebody hates somebody. They had just met, so there are things that have happened in the past, and you wonder, why am I feeling so bad about this person? Because of past karma, and you come to work it out. So better to try to work it out so you don't have to come back again and again and again with them. And there were 2 men at Mount Washington, and they just couldn't get along for anything. And Master said, that's because you were enemies in the past. So, but no matter what you are or where, you have to try to work it out to become, at least to release that bad feeling about the person. So these are all thoughts on this topic of friendship. There are many other things that I could say, but I would recommend this book that I showed you earlier, How to Love and Be Loved by Master. And I'll close the evening with a prayer that I'll ask you to join me in, of Guruji's, on this topic of friendship. And close your eyes and look up at the spiritual eye. And it's through the spiritual eye, really, that you draw the souls you have known from the past, who have helped you, who you have helped, and who will help you again, and who you can help again in this life. And remember, that's God coming to you as sweetness, as kindness, sometimes as challenges. To help you along on the path to freedom. Please offer this prayer from your heart in silence with me. We'll say it a couple of times. Heavenly Father, let those that are our own come unto us, and finding them, may we find friendship with all, and thus find Thee. Heavenly Father, let those that are our own come unto us, and finding them, may we find friendship with all, and thus find Thee.